so much. Thank you. What a wonderful world. I see skies of green, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark secret night. Well, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. So on the faces of people going by, I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They really say, I love you. I hear babies cry, watch them grow. They learn much more. Well, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. We'll check some keys. And the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Your daddy is rich. They don't know, but mama's good looking. Hush, little little baby, don't you cry. One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing. Then you'll spread your wings and take to the skies, until the morning. Nobody's gonna harm you. Hey, hush, little baby, don't you cry. Just in case. And the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high, until that morning. Still gonna rise up singing. Hush, little baby, don't you cry. Ooh, hush, little baby, don't you cry. Hush, little baby, don't hush, little baby. Sit up in there, hush, little baby. Hush, little baby. Mommy and Daddy standing by. Ooh, Mommy and Daddy, well, I'm standing by. Mommy and Daddy, well, I'm standing by. Thank you. Enjoy this beautiful classic, South African classic, Music in the Air. There's music in the air. It makes the sorrows go. ever someday you'll come to hear the song, I'll show you a way your heart can come along. I can feel it when I see, and I know love. There's a joy in everything, and there's more love. Well, look for love in the music, lost in the melody. You find love. Look for love in the music, lost in the melody. You find love. There's music in the air. It makes the sorrows go. Well, the music take you there. Hey, far from the world, you know. I can feel it when I see, and I know love. There's a joy in everything, and there's more love. Well, look for love in the music, lost in the melody. You find love. Look for love in the music, lost in the melody. You find love. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Music in the air, music in the air, yeah. Music in the air, music in the air, yeah. Oh, yeah. Music in the air, music in the air, yeah. Music, 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 yeah. Yes, you'll find love in the music. Yes, you'll find love in the music. Yes, you'll find love, yeah, 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 in the music. Yes, you'll find love, yeah, in the music. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. joy. You cry, you smile, and you dance. Even though sometimes it may seem people of the world, they cry, they smile, and they dance. Celebrating life is good, but not without a cry. Celebrating life with you, but not without a smile. Celebrating life is sweet, but not without a dance. Celebrating life is good with everything it brings. Won't you fly away, my heart? Don't despair. The world is full of joy. You cry, you smile, and you dance. Even though sometimes it may seem people of the world, they cry, they smile, and they dance. Celebrating life is good, but not without a cry. Celebrating life with you, but not without a smile. Celebrating life is sweet, but not without a dance. Celebrating life is good with everything it brings. Za-da-da-da-da-da-da. Za-da-da-da-da-da. Fly away, my heart. The world is full of joy and peace. Hey. Won't you cry and smile and you dance? Fly away, fly away. Za-da-da-da-da-da-da. Fly away, fly away. Za-da-da-da-da-da. Won't you cry and smile and you dance? Fly away, fly away. Za-do-re, 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 za-ba-da-do-re. Uyabona ndinovuyo xa ndibona ubuso bakho, ndibulela umdali ngondipha wena. Ndize ngobuhle nangozithoba, ndithembe ndiyacela, andisoze ndikumoshe ubuhle bakho bobekolide bukhanya konke xa ukhona. Ubuhle bakho bobekolide bukhanya amehlo xa ukhona. Ndikhe ndicinge Thank you. Thank you. I wake up, I see you as you leave. I feel it, I hear it as you leave. When we kiss, I want deep, but you far away. Be back here, but we better feel me silly. You used to be my everything, treated me like I was a queen. What spell have you cast on me? Always lied and believed. You said a girl should never be afraid of ever loving you. Those words I hung on to. Oh God, I was a fool. You became a bad habit, keeping up appearances so you could notice. Even when suddenly you picture things and left a kiss, that's crazy. People get but we better feel me silly. People get but you borrow feel me silly. People get but we better feel me silly. Thank you very much. We are sold on, and we shall give it back to the program of the day. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome. May we quieten down the music? Thank you. Welcome to the third OR Tambo Memorial Lecture. We are pleased that you are here with us. May I request that we settle down as the Minister, the Vice Chancellor, the Ambassador of the USA, the High Commissioner of India, the Deputy Minister of Public Works, Ms. Swartz, and the Deputy President in the Presidency, Ms. Mutaung, are about to join us. We apologize for the late start. As you might have seen, you probably have struggled to enter the university in the first instance because of traffic congestion at the entrance. The explanation is that today is graduation day at UNISA, and when that happens, we've had graduation ceremonies from this morning at 10 o'clock. There's one actually right now at 2 o'clock, and there'll be another at 1800 hours. So unfortunately, that then means that there's a hive of activity on campus when that is the case. May I, yes, I think, let me greet the Ambassador, Ambassador Tambo. I believe she's in the room. As we wait for them to arrive, may I ask the Ambassador to greet everyone? She's this very beautiful lady in the bright, okay, in the bright, I don't know, colors. Is that orange, Ambassador? Or pink with many beautiful African colors, a palette of colors right here. There's Ambassador Nomathemba Tambo. We are honored indeed that we are celebrating the event in the presence of the Tambo family. While all of this is happening, lost and found. When you pick it up, let me know what car it is and what color it is. Thank you so much. Let's receive the Vice Chancellor, the Minister in the Presidency as they arrive, the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, the Deputy Minister of Public Works, Ambassador of the United States of America, the High Commissioner of India. I'm only mentioning them because I know that we've just, we're in a particular room coming through. We are very pleased also to be joined by several embassies that have honored our invitation today to join us today as we celebrate this very important occasion. As the Ambassador meets and greets and kisses the Vice Chancellor and the Minister in the Presidency, We have in the house today celebrating with us a number of embassies that have come through. I've already mentioned the Ambassador of the USA, the High Commissioner of India. We have in the room representation, the Ambassador of Turkey is in the room, the Ambassador of Colombia. In some cases, the ambassador or representatives of the country that are in the room. We have Ambassador Ntlapa, I believe, is in the room. The ambassador of Algeria is in the room. The ambassador of Jamaica is in the room, as well as other embassies that are present. We also have a high delegation of people from the business community. A number of multinational companies are here and present, both from South Africa and elsewhere. We welcome you all, and we look forward to you being with us on this very important occasion as we celebrate the gallant of our freedom in South Africa, and really a pioneering person, as I said, the longest serving president of the African National Congress that has then led to us to have the democracy that we enjoy today. In the program, you will see, ladies and gentlemen, that is on your table, that we will run the program as follows. And perhaps without, I interact a lot with people from DECO, and they are always guiding me on protocols and such matters. And if I've not mentioned your embassy, please forgive me. We didn't mean to just mention some and not others as well. But Ambassador Brigadier, I'd like to point out actually this particular fact that we continue at UNISA to enjoy the partnership with the US Embassy on the Young African Leadership Initiative, the YALI. This program is continuing here at UNISA with the UNISA School for Business Leadership and has been running for several years. So we are very pleased, sir, for this continued support to our university in this way and many other ways in which you do so. Other embassies as well, we have noted your continued support. A number of you were with us this very Tuesday when we held the event where Ambassador Diseko was here. So we really feel spoiled as the University of South Africa that we are located in a place where it is possible for us to establish this relationship with the diplomatic community and for them to be with us and support us in many different ways as you continue to do so. Members of think tanks and are also here. We are also spoiled to have amongst us. She happens to be a trustee of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, but she's a chancellor. We have a chancellor of another university, Advocate Mjanku Gumbi, here in the very beautiful green outfit. Advocate, you want to greet them? She's no stranger to UNISA. She's no stranger to UNISA. We've known her for several years as we've continued the collaboration with the Thabo Mbeki Foundation for the establishment of the then Thabo Mbeki African Leadership Institute, now called the Thabo Mbeki School for Public and International Affairs, as well as the Thabo Mbeki Presidential Library and other programs that are joint programs of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation and UNISA. With not much ado, I think I'm going to just move on to the program because we are chasing time. I am accompanied by my two program directors that are sitting right here. Do you want to greet Kolile Gaba, as well as Tabiso Molefe? They'll be running the program with me. I would love to then hand over, right, to my next program director. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maureen Tong. Greetings to everyone. You said to me that I must say all protocol observed. I think I'm doing it right. Colleagues, my name is Tlhoriso Colin Molefe, and I'm from Gauteng region, and I'll be with you until the end of the program. Without further ado, I think it's important so that we can be able to save time. I have my acting director, regional director, Ms. Erin Nodier, to be able to set the scene alight. She must come here to be able to set the scene and be able to give the context why we are here today. Ms. Nodier, the platform is yours. Can we give a round of applause?
A very good day to you all. As I already been introduced, my name is Erin Nodier, and I am the Acting Regional Director in Gauteng. It is indeed an honor for me and a very big privilege to be part of this program today. setting the scene for today. We are truly honored to have the Oliver and Adelaine Tambo Foundation here to witness and share in this very important ceremony. The fact that you graced this occasion with your presence is an indication that you value the partnership with the Gauteng region. Under the theme, Reclaiming Africa's Intellectual Futures, this event hosted by UNISA Gauteng region underscores our unwavering commitment to preserve and cherish the values and the principles of Oliver Tambo. His enduring dedication and commitment to the cause of justice, equality, and the pursuit of freedom continue to serve as an eternal wellspring of inspiration to all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, we celebrate our Tambo's legacy in the month of October. This specific day, 27 October 2023, was specially chosen because today, late O.R. Tambo would have been 106 years old. You will understand, therefore, when I say that the University of South Africa and the Oliver Adelaide Tambo Foundation are truly honored to be hosting this lecture as it focuses on O.R. Tambo as a scholar and his use and love for mathematics, science, and law to shape the world. They say knowledge is power, which nobody can take away from you. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to indicate the significance of Gauteng region's involvement in this partnership. The agreement covers a broad range of activities that will help to advance research activities in the university. This includes encouraging students to produce research in Tambo's life, on Tambo's life. As Gauteng region, we provide a variety of student support services to a student population just over 100,000 students through our various regional service centers located at almost all corners of Gauteng province. Our focus on student-centeredness makes us a befitting partner of O.R. Tambo as he used education as a way to challenge and to fight the injustices faced by African people. Under the theme, Reclaiming Africa's Intellectual Futures, the region appointed academic literacy facilitators to especially help our undergraduate and postgraduate students with literacy and numeracy challenges. These facilitators also assist our postgraduate students in formulating research proposals, article writing, and critical reading. The region, Gauteng region, has 17 computer laboratories. We have more than 700 computers, and we've appointed digital learning advisors to assist our students with digital literacy, technical challenges, as well as academic support. In the regions, our students have access to regional libraries, and very importantly, we provide a range of counseling support services, which include personal support, financial guidance, health issues, and other generic support. Prof. Lenka Bule, our own principal, we are honored to have you with us today, as you will do the welcome address and also introduce the participants of this event. Thank you very much. We know you are very busy. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot immediately think of a more eminently qualified person than our keynote speaker for today, Minister Tsaveni. Minister is a distinguished leader with a remarkable record of excellence in both the public and the private sector. All I wish to say to you, Minister, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here today. We are really appreciative, and we can't wait to hear your speech. To the Tambo family, presented by the ambassador, may I say Tambo, presented here today, we remain extremely excited to be an active participant in this partnership. Mindful of the fact of our discussant, Dr. Neri, a postdoctoral research fellow at the Institute for Pan-African Thought and Conversation, as Gauteng region, we wish to extend our excitement about your presence and looking forward to the input you will be sharing with us in response to the keynote speaker's address. Distinguished guest, the Minister, the Office of the Minister, our VC and Principal, the Council, Executive Management, and I want to make maybe a disclaimer to our acting registrar and our acting deputy registrar being here, that they could not be here today, as well as the other regional directors who are here today. And last but not least, our Gauteng staff being here. You are most welcome, and I thank you all. I want to say to you, this is your region, this is your province, and I simply set the scene and share our greetings from UNISA Gauteng region today. Thank you, Mr. Program Presenter.
Thank you very much. Prof. Nkambula, you know, the amazing part about the whole gathering here is that on the 27th of October in 1917, in Bizana, Eastern Cape, a leader and a changer, a man who changed everything, was born. And we all thought that he won't be able to pave much because of how the system was doing. But he said, regardless of how system unjust it might be, I'll definitely go to exile and be able to preach and talk about what needs to happen in South Africa. That's why we are gathered here today, because he's the man who made sure that democracy is born, while others were inside and locked up in Robben Island. So we really need to look at ourselves and say, we are talking about a man who was supposed to be 106-year-old, and also not forgetting that what happened in Zimbabwe before we have the Harare Declaration where he fell ill. But whatever he paved, today we are here and celebrating the fruit of his work. Prof. Nkambula, I know that I'm not supposed to say much about you. I'm told that you don't like to be mentioned much here, but I know that you have served in some of the universities, including University of Free State, even our university as well. We have been here before, and also served at the University of Witwatersrand. It's time for you to come to the podium and be able to do your welcome address, and also introducing our guest speaker, who is the minister in the presidency. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Prof. Nkambula.
Dumelang. Afshen. Sanbonan. Kgorong. Assalamu alaikum. Kalimera. Ni hao. Thank you. Thank you very much, colleagues. Let me take this opportunity to welcome. Let me recognize the family of Tambo, represented by Ambassador Nomathemba Tambo, and the family of Tambo that are here present or participating virtually. Let me also recognize the diplomatic corps, all represented embassies that are here in this afternoon, dignitaries from the national, provincial, local, provincial, and national who are here, friends of the University of South Africa, our sign language interpreters, representatives of other universities, councils present, representatives of the media, fraternal, administrative staff, and members of the university community, academic staff, distinguished members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I thought we were all excited on this day that we are celebrating a birthday, that at least in the philosophy of Africa, when we greet each other, that we could recognize each other's humanity. Good afternoon. Then I'm hopeful. I'm privileged to welcome you to the University of South Africa to celebrate the 3rd annual Reginald Oliver Tambo Memorial Lecture. This for us as the university is a momentous occasion in the university history. It happens when we celebrate 150 years of UNISA's leadership of higher education. It is not often told that UNISA is the first university in the world to practice distance education. It was followed by others, and 147 years later, after the aftermath of COVID-19, the model that UNISA has been using has become an important offering that industry, universities, and all other sectors are looking toward. And we are proud of this important gift that Africa, and South Africa in particular, has bequeathed to the global arena to make knowledge and education, especially at university level, to be accessible to the majority and not just the elites. This is the principles that His Excellency Reginald Oliver Tambo would align himself with for the benefit of society. The auspicious occasion hosted by UNISA Gauteng region underscores our unwavering commitment to reclaiming Africa's intellectual futures. We do so understanding that the philosophies, civilizations, insights, ideas, and even sometimes the solutions that Africa in the global arena or in international affairs are not acknowledged for. Just recently, His Excellency President Ramaphosa led African countries to Ukraine to offer solidarity and peace, not guns, not ammunition. And that bears testament to the ideals that South Africa and the diplomacy that Oliver Tambo stood for continues to be expressed. And it is our interest as the university to look at how humanizing values that Oliver Tambo championed through his remarkable life, his enduring dedication to the cause of justice, equality, and the pursuit for freedom continues, and how our students, the academy, but also the alumni of the university, including our country, continent, and the global world, rally around them. In 2023, we acknowledge what would have been 160th birthday. Colleagues have already said that, but also one of the longest serving president of one of also the longest liberation movement, the African National Congress. And it's very important, colleagues, that you clap to that, because political parties, thank you very much, because political parties, liberation movements, those that wage the cause for freedom for many countries, often do not last. If we were to look into the history of liberation movements in our continent, but also the globe around, will realize that many of these liberation movements don't often make it as soon as they take leadership, and we must, for the benefit of history and posterity, acknowledge this. In an interview with Columbia University graduate student Gail Gerhardt in August 1970, Mangaliso Robert Sobukwe had this to say about Reginald Tambo. We always recognize Tambo as superior in intelligence and committed to ensuring that all of us interact. Tambo is a much quieter man, but very intelligent, and his practice of diplomacy must be acknowledged. In his autobiography, The Long Walk to Freedom, President Nelson Mandela, one of the eminent alumnus of UNISA, we're really happy. We're one of the few universities that has trained 3 presidents of the country. There are also others of other countries. But President Mandela, Mbeki, Ramaphosa all studied through this university. So it's very important, colleagues. President Mandela has to say, from the start, I saw Oliver's intelligence was diamond-edged. He was a keen debater and did not accept platitudes that so many of us automatically subscribe to. He looked into the substantive issues, which is the values that we train our own students to ensure that they act beyond the platitudes. They substantively engage with knowledge, but also they become citizens that represent the best that the civilizations of our time as the values of Africa stand for. President Mbeki himself, who's also an alumnus of this university, who worked for decades closely with O.R. Tambo, our chancellor, describes him as an intellectual in the best meaning of that word. He was a person of reason, a person of rational thought, and creative but rational action. It meant that here was a leader who could deal with both concrete and the abstract, a dance between theory and practice, that dance between the cognitive, the affective, but also the value systems that drive what it means to being leaders in the scientists with the levels of scientific precision and therefore the commitment to science and politics as that which must engage and enable liberation of freedom. More than anything, the foremost quality of O.R. Tambo that most writers, fellow activists, peers agree on is the quality of critical thinking and the culture of generating progressive ideas that were the embodiment of everything that he was. Today in Africa, more than in any time, we need more O.R. Tambos to respond to the questions of our times. It is incumbent for this generation to emulate the example of Tambo and to do even better than his generation. I'm delighted to welcome the Tambo family and our esteemed partners from the Oliver and Adelaide Tambo Foundation, represented by Ambassador Nomathemba Tambo, to this historic occasion. Can you please give them a round of applause? I recognize that the partnership between our institution is a source of tremendous pride for UNISA, its students, its academics, but also the scientific agenda of our society in ensuring that the icons of our country are not forgotten, that they are not made a mockery of, but they are always lifted up as this mission of reclaiming Africa's intellectual future assets. Our keynote speaker for this year's lecture is a very vibrant keynote speaker with exceptional credential, not only interested in that dance of public and ensuring that public systems, institutions are excellent in our country, but he also comes with a strong experience of corporate sector and participation. But for those who do not know, I happen to have the privilege to know, she has also worked at UNISA. Can we please give her a round of applause? At a time when at UNISA there were few black women in this university, Kumbuzo was already walking the hallways, ensuring that she was part of the communities that were agitating for the academy in this institution to be diversified and for us to benefit from the multiplicities of cultures, religions, ethnicities, and ideas that make universities the best environments that we should. I must state, Minister, there are many other accolades I could share about you, but it is very important for the benefit of research to just give you just a little bit so that you can go and do your research. Our library is the largest library in the country, in the continent, with the best digital and actual materials. So you're welcome, colleagues, to do a little bit more to understand our own keynote speaker. But I must state that at the heart of building a democracy, at the heart of ensuring that South Africa and African countries and the global South interacts with the global North from an equitable, humanizing, progressive, and engagement processes is the minister. At this heart is also the values of O.R. Tambo that have shaped diplomacy and how we understand diplomacy in our country. And finally, colleagues, I'd like to welcome to the University of South Africa, the universities of leaders, the university shaping futures, the university committed to transforming itself to being the best anchor of the aspirations of African people, their societies, institutions, political systems, as well as economic transformation. Welcome. Sorry. No, I won't fall. I was a bit aware. Not now. The reason why I ran back was just to tell you, in 2021, we were number 13. In 2023, we are number 7. So there's improvement. I just wanted to say, we had 39% of the academy. We now have 61% of the academy with PhDs. We are looking towards being 80% or 90%. In terms of the rankings, our engineering faculty, for the first time, Times Higher Education has recognized them as #1 in the country, alongside with Stellenbosch, Northwest University, and we're quite proud. Resources, we want to get a little bit more, or we'll tell you only when we have 20 or 30 or more. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Can we also give the round of applause to the Minister in the Presidency?
Good afternoon. How do you match that? So I was sitting there and I thought, I'm now here to listen to the lecture. Thank you, Vice Chancellor, and in particular for the last part that you have mentioned in terms of the performance of UNISA. Because in the midst of everything, there is a tendency to want to minimize the achievement of a black child, in particular black women. They demonize us. They demonize us. They say all things because they do not want an African girl child to rise. So in your struggles to make UNISA a better place, in your struggles to fight against this, the sitting of a black child at the helm of UNISA as a Vice Chancellor, we are there to support you. Our voices may not be heard sometimes, but we are there to cheer you on. but as sisters, we remain with a circle that you can always rely on and network on. If it was not for great sisters and great mothers, I would not be here to advocate Mujanku Gumbi, and I'm going to say this, and she doesn't like it. So when I was the epitome of trouble, she was given the responsibility to make sure that I behave and I don't get expelled from a university. And she did her best. So all the good things you see about me, that's her. She was as supportive to even come to our fundraisers. It didn't matter the hour of the day. She'll pick up my call and she'll do whatever I want. She'll make the calls she wanted. So all the bad things that about me is what she failed to convert. Thank you. I still love you, Mom. I'll stand on the protocols as raised by the Vice Chancellor so that I do not make mistakes and offend the protocols, but I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Sis Tembi, the daughter of the late President General of the ANC, O.R. Tambo, and thank you for being here, and thank you for representing the aspirations of Tamkulu. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, when the invitation came, may I have some water, please? You can tell by the level of my nervousness. When the invitation came for me to address the third Oliver Regional Tambo Memorial Lecture, I was not certain if I'm the best person to deliver this lecture. For one, my boss says if diplomacy was a course, it's a course I'll fail with flying colors. And I rarely fail anything, but on diplomacy we agreed that I'll fail in really flying colors. And therefore, to speak at a memorial lecture of a great diplomat, it's a serious challenge for those of us who are not diplomats, not only by training, but by design and by choice. I literally looked at the framed pictures of me and President O.R. Tambo in my house to trigger the memory of the conversation we had when I was barely a teenager and also when I was a child. So you have to forgive the memory of a child that I do not recall most of the conversations. But my decent recollection of my conversations with him was on the first MK conference in 1991, but I could only remember his amused recollection of my feistiness when we sought him out as leaders, and in this space, leaders being the operative word of the pioneer movement, Masupatsila, Awalta Sisulu, towards the drafting of the OAU, now the AU Children's Rights Charter. That feistiness is better off not regaled even as an anecdote of this lecture. I accepted this invitation to speak, guided by the words of O.R. Tambo when he said, "It was always my desire to strike new ground and help to lend weight where it is most required. I am therefore here to lend my albeit small weight and hope to contribute to the discourse of this critical, compelling topic, reclaiming Africa's intellectual futures. This is not just a call to action, it is a proclamation of the importance of restoring Africa's intellectual legacy, rekindling its potential, and securing a better future for the continent." We are gathering to discuss this compelling topic in honor of the legacy of a remarkable individual, a visionary leader, and a tireless advocate for African intellectualism, President General Oliver Reginald Tambo. President O.R. Tambo's life work has not only left an indelible mark on the struggle for freedom, equality, and justice, but in the advancement of African intellectual thought. With luminaries in this room and many books written about O.R. Tambo, I do not dare to think I understood him better. Born on this day, October 27th, in 1917, he would have turned 106 today. In his time, O.R. Tambo understood that knowledge, education, and critical thinking were the most potent weapons against oppression and injustice. Throughout his life, he demonstrated the power of intellect in the fight for freedom and equality. 30 years after O.R. Tambo's passing, Africa is still fighting for its freedom from wars and economic subjugation. To understand the importance of reclaiming Africa's intellectual futures, we must acknowledge Africa's historical context. Africa, with its rich history, diverse cultures, and abundant resources, has long been a source of inspiration and intrigue. For centuries, Africa has been a victim of colonialization, slavery, and exploitation, and the continent's intellectual contributions have often been overshadowed and overlooked. The dark chapters in the history of Africa have often overshadowed the intellectual achievements of African societies. It is therefore imperative that we move beyond this historical burden and give due recognition to the intellectual traditions that existed long before external influence. It is high time we acknowledge and amplify the voices of African intellectuals, scholars, and visionaries, and recognize their critical roles in shaping the continent's future. Since we cannot reclaim the future without acknowledging the past, this may require the rewriting of Africa's intellectualism, including amplifying the contributions of Timbuktu to global intellectualism, particularly during the height of the Mali Empire in the 14th and the 15th centuries. For those of my age and younger, Timbuktu became a renowned center of learning with numerous universities and libraries. It attracted scholars and students from various parts of Africa and beyond. It was home to an impressive collection of manuscripts, many of which contained valuable knowledge on subjects like mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and literature. These manuscripts were meticulously preserved with the contribution of former President Thabo Mbeki and the Chancellor of the University of South Africa. The city, yes, Timbuktu was a city, and this debunks the notion that cities are a creation of our colonizers. The city fostered a rich tradition of scholarship and education, with scholars contributing to diverse fields, including Islamic theology, jurisprudence, and the sciences. In addition, Timbuktu's intellectual vibrancy facilitated cultural exchange between Africa and the wider world, contributing to a deeper understanding of various cultures. Timbuktu scholars made notable contributions to astronomy and mathematics. Who would have believed that the Dark Continent had astronomers and mathematicians before the colonizers came to our shores? Advancing knowledge in this field, Timbuktu was a leading authority. Overall, Timbuktu's role as a center of learning and its contributions to various intellectual disciplines had a lasting impact on the global intellectual landscape, enriching our understanding of history and knowledge. So what of the global contributions of African intellectuals? African intellectuals have made significant contributions to various fields from literature to science and technology, and they have left an indelible mark on the world. We must recognize and celebrate these achievements, not as exceptions, but as a part of a larger tradition of African intellectualism. So here we go. And it will not have been a lecture, it will not be a lecture if I don't test your knowledge of African intellectuals. Have you heard or read about from Egypt, Imontov, the Egyptian polymath, Mohammed Abda, the Egyptian jurist, religious scholar, and liberal reformer, regarded as the founder of Islamic modernism, Samir Musa, the Egyptian nuclear scientist, Ahmed Ziwali, the Egyptian-American scientist, awarded the 1999 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, Ismail Mustafa al-Falaki, the Egyptian astronomer and mathematician, and also the Nobel Prize winner. From Tunisia, Aziz Boucher, the American physicist and filmmaker born and raised in Tunisia. From Algeria, Fatassa Ogarezo, the international law scholar and judge of the African Court of Human and People's Rights. From Morocco, Rachid Yazami, the French-Moroccan scientist best known for his research on lithium-ion batteries. From Sudan, Mo Ibrahim, the Sudanese-born British mobile communication entrepreneur and engineer. Mohamed Osam Bola, the biomedical engineer who works on diabetes monitoring. Nashwa Essa, the nanoparticle physicist. Mohamed H.A. Hassan, the mathematician and physicist. From Cameroon, Ibrahim Joya, ruler of the Bamoun people in what is now Western Cameroon, credited with developing a semi-syllabic Bumam script, which evolved from the rudimentary pictographic script to a more advanced logographic script, which later refined to the semi-syllabic script known to the world of today. It's only technology people and graphic designers who will know what I'm talking about. Did you know that Perkins Ajona, the Cameroonian graduate of Massachusetts Institute of Technology, invented a novel technology for calibrating radars for self-driving cars while pursuing an internship at General Motors? Even the 150 years UNISA library does not have that record. From Congo, Jean-Jacques Muyembe Tafumi, the Congolese microbiologist who investigated the first Ebola outbreak and was part of the effort that discovered Ebola as a new disease. In August 2019, he led the research that discovered the most effective treatment for Ebola, the MAB114, working with other researchers at the INRB and the National Institute of Health Vaccine Research Center in the US. The Ghanaian Alexander Animesa, chemical engineer, inventor, and author. He is known for the contribution towards the field of membrane science and technology. I know the US would like to claim him, Ambassador Brigetsi. From Mali, Mohamed Bagayogo, eminent scholar from Timbuktu. The Cheki Modib Daha, the Malian-born aerospace engineer who contributed to several NASA missions, such as Mars Pathfinder and Galileo spacecraft and the Mars Observer. Ahmad Baba, the medieval Western African scriptwriter, scholar, and political provocateur. He is known as the greatest African scholar and also known as the unique pearl of his time. From Sierra Leone is not only about the wars and the maiming of children in the fights of war. There's Abiso Davison Nicole, a biomedical scientist and physician who discovered the breakdown of insulin in the human body, a breakthrough for the treatment of diabetes. John Farrell Fassom, the physician who coined the term black water fever and was the first to link the disease directly to malaria. And yet, today, Africa is still plagued by malaria without vaccines that prevents the recurrence of malaria. From Nigeria, Catherine Obajinungu Cholunu, the Nigerian writer, researcher, and former lecturer of African Cultural and Gender Studies. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, this one everyone knows her. The Nigerian writer whose works range from novels to short stories to nonfiction. Yemisi Aribesala, Nigerian essayist, writer, painter, and food memorist. And he's here for the food memorist part. That's why he's on my list. Nonromo Azonye, publisher, theater director, playwright, poet, and advertising professional. And we think advertisers only come from the Western and developed countries on my list. Nonromo Azonye, publisher, theater director, playwright, poet, and advertising professional. And we think advertisers only come from the Western and developed countries. Seyi Oyesola, the Nigerian doctor who co-invented a hospital in a box. Bizi Ezeroa, the Nigerian engineer, racer, and former pharmaceutical executive who has built some of the world's most powerful Honda and Porsche engines. Did you know when you're driving that Honda Ballade or the Porsche Cayenne that the engine beneath that bonnet was designed by an African? Suleiman Elias Bogoro, a professor of animal science specializing in biochemistry and ruminant nutrition. Of course, from South Africa, you will know of Christian Barnard, the South African cardiac surgeon who performed the world's first successful human-to-human heart transplant. However, it is only of recent that we all learned of Hamilton Naki, a black gardener who went on to work in the animal laboratory at UCT and assisted Professor Barnard in the research effort that preceded the first human heart transplantation. We know of Sidney Berner, the South African biologist who won the 2002 Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine, Alan MacLeod Cormack, the South African-born American physicist who won the 1979 Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine. But we do not know of Muraro Doyoyo, South African professor, engineer, and inventor, of Terfo Jenkins, human geneticist from South Africa, noted for his work on DNA. We all know of Chirizima Rwara, a scientist, a technologist, and an inventor, but we hardly know of Tebe Midupi, South African astrophysicist and founding director of Astronomy Africa. We do not know much of Pilisiwe Nomgongo, professor of analytical chemistry and South African research chair in the nanotechnology for water. We do not know much of Himla Sodala, South African human geneticist known for genetic research into the peoples of sub-Saharan Africa. Did you know of Kwarsha Abdullah Karim, South African HIV researcher? But you all know of Elon Musk, the CEO of SpaceX and Tesla Inc. I do not know whether he is South African today, but he may be South African when he gets in trouble. We all know of Mamuketi Pakeng. We choose to disregard her contribution as a professor of mathematics education. Of course, from Tanzania, there's Esto Mpemba, the scientist and physicist who discovered the infamous Mpemba effect, a paradoxical phenomenon in which hot water freezes faster than cold water under certain conditions. Reclaiming Africa's intellectual future means teaching our youth, both at basic education level and institutions of higher learning, about these giants I've just spoken about. It is not only an act of commemorating them, but reaffirming the place of Africans in the narrative of excellence and inspiration. This is also a reaffirmation that Africa is not a monolithic entity, but a continent with a multitude of cultures, languages, and perspectives. These diversities have given rise to a vast array of intellectual thought and creativity. From ancient African empires and kingdoms to the contemporary thinkers, the intellectual wealth of the continent is vast and varied. But reclaiming Africa's intellectual futures, by reclaiming, Africa's intellectual futures, we empower the continent's scholars to share their unique perspectives with the world. We are still to write about the contributions of the kingdoms of Monomotapa, Mapungubwe, Congo, and the Great Zimbabwe, amongst other African kingdoms, to the global intellectual discourse. It is important to write about these contributions because Africa's intellectual heritage is deeply connected to its cultural traditions. Efforts to preserve and promote these traditions can help secure Africa's intellectual future. Added to this must be the preservation of indigenous languages, oral histories, and the artistic expressions of Africans. Speaking of Africa's traditions, it is important to remember that Africa has often been portrayed through stereotypes that do not do justice to its complex reality. By reclaiming Africa's intellectual futures, we challenge these stereotypes and present a more accurate and dynamic image of the continent. Education is a cornerstone in the reclamation of Africa's intellectual futures and challenging the stereotypes about our continent. By investing in quality education systems, we empower the next generation of African thinkers to build on the achievements of their predecessors. This includes fostering critical thinking, research, and innovation. Intellectual progress is often born from open and inclusive dialogue. It is essential to create platforms and spaces for African intellectuals to engage with global conversations. This exchange of ideas can lead to innovative solutions to local and global challenges. Collaboration between African intellectuals and their counterparts worldwide can lead to the development of new ideas and solutions. Encouraging partnerships can help harness the full potential of Africa's intellectual capital. The time has come for us to reclaim Africa's intellectual futures. We must recognize that the intellectual wealth of Africa extends far beyond its past achievements. It is a vital force that can drive our progress in the 21st century. I would like, therefore, to propose some key steps we must collectively take to achieve the reclamation of Africa's intellectual futures. The first one is investing in education. Access to education is the cornerstone of intellectual progress. We must prioritize education from early childhood to higher learning, ensuring that every African child has the opportunity to realize their potential. This investment will create a generation of critical thinkers, inventors, and problem solvers. As South Africa, we today know from Census 2022 that 60.2% of children are in early childhood learning, but we are concerned about the 5.3 million children who are not participating in the ECD program. For this reason, we are working on measures to ensure their participation. Today, I would have been proud to report to President O.R. Tambo that 30 years later, the number of children with no access to education has declined to just 6.9%, and the number completing grade 12 has also increased to 37.6% from a mere 16.3% in 1996. And post-school graduates have grown to 12.2%. So as we commit to leave no one behind, we challenge universities such as UNISA that its next 10 years and not the next 150 years, Vice Chancellor, must find mechanisms to ensure that broader access to quality and relevant post-education for all. The relevance of education is important if South Africa and Africa is to address the high population of not in education and not in training youth that bedevil our country and continent. We must all take a leaf out of the book of O.R. Tambo, who, when confronted with a large influx of young people fleeing the country in 1976, he established the Somafco Somomahlongu Freedom College in Mazimbu. Second is preserving cultural heritage. Africa's intellectual heritage is deeply intertwined with its diverse cultures. We must preserve and celebrate the vast array of languages, tradition, and oral history that have been passed down through generations. These are repositories of knowledge that can inspire contemporary solutions. During the COVID-19, in this country and in the rest of the continent, we relied on traditional African medicines such as Mhlonyane and Chumbeumbe to cure and survive the COVID-19. The third one is promoting research and innovation. Africa has a wealth of untapped potential in the fields of science and technology and innovation. Encouraging research, providing support for investors, inventors, and entrepreneurs, and creating an environment that fosters innovation that will allow Africa to compete on a global scale. If we had recognized Bodoyoyo and Bomarara, amongst others, this country will be furthest because their innovations would have been far. But today, as a country, we do not have a plan on how to invest in the inventions that are made by our own, and we seek to submit them and subject them to the PFMA. When I continue to ask, when Zoom was adopted by government, where was the PFMA in 2020? The fourth is engaging the diaspora. The African diaspora is a vast source of intellectual capital. I do not want to go there, Ambassador Brigitte. We should actively engage with the African diaspora to tap into their knowledge, expertise, and resources, and encourage them to contribute to the continent's development, not as a charity place, but as an investment into the future of the next stage of development. Advocating for inclusivity and gender equality is number 5. Africa's intellectual future can only be truly reclaimed if we ensure that all voices are heard and all individuals have an equal opportunity to contribute. This means promoting gender equality and diversity in all sectors. Until the majority of the population in the African continent, who happen to be women, are successful and contribute meaningfully, the African continent will not prosper. Therefore, the continued attack on African women and their prosperity must cease, because it's not in the interest of our own as humankind. It's only to serve to cut your nose to spite your own face. Lastly is collaboration and partnerships. Africa should seek collaborations and partnerships with the global community. International cooperation can facilitate the exchange of ideas, resources, expertise that will drive intellectual progress. However, the collaboration also and partnership of our own intellectual pool of resources will also advance our own growth and development in the international community. The collaboration of UNISA in Stellenbosch and the University of Venda will advance the science and technology and indigenous knowledge systems. Therefore, reclaiming Africa's intellectual future is not just an aspiration, it's an imperative. The world is changing rapidly, and Africa must take its place in the shaping of the future. As we move forward, let us remember that Africa's intellectual legacy is not just about the past, it's about the present and the future. It's about harnessing the power of knowledge to address the challenges we face, from climate change to healthcare, from economic development to social justice. Together with dedication, resilience, and unwavering belief in Africa's potential, we can and will reclaim Africa's intellectual futures. The journey is challenging, but the destination is worth the effort. A continent that only remembers its intellectual legacy, but forges a new and brighter path ahead. As we commemorate the life of O.R. Tambo, let us be inspired by his legacy. Let us continue to champion Africa's intellectualism, recognizing that the future of the continent depends on the power of knowledge, critical thinking, and unity. Let us strive to make education accessible to all, nurture diverse perspectives, and seek solutions to the challenges that faces Africa today. In conclusion, reclaiming, before that, I will not do justice if I do not say this. Oliver Tambo's life exemplified the synergy of political activism and intellectualism. He demonstrated that the struggle for justice and equality required not only courage but also intellect, not just action but also reflection. In conclusion, and as we reflect, reclaiming Africa's intellectual futures is not just about recognizing the past, but about shaping a brighter, more inclusive future. Africa's intellectuals have much to offer, and their contributions are vital for addressing the complex challenges of our time. By supporting and celebrating Africa's intellectual voices, we contribute to a more equitable and intellectually rich world. Let us embrace this opportunity to learn from, collaborate with, and empower African scholars and visionaries, ensuring that their voices are heard and their ideas are acknowledged on the global stage. Happy birthday, President O.R. Tambo. Thank you.
That was a class and a half. Definitely I have to make sure that I read some of the quotes that you made, Minister. Another round of applause. Because I'm still thinking about the gardener that helped Chris Barnett. So definitely I must make sure that I read, and I read a lot. The platform of today really gives us an opportunity to talk more about the late O.R. Tambo, because we feel that maybe he was not mentioned enough. And before I get the inputs from the discussant, I was just thinking on my own that what happened, Minister, on the 21st of March in 1960, when the ANC decided to send him abroad so that he can be able to mobilize opposition against the apartheid regime. Unfortunately, 2 years later or so, other comrades were arrested and they were charged with treason. Then things started to fall apart. But with the help of the leaders of Africa, not forgetting Julius Nyerere from Tanzania, we had the Morogoro conference. And when he summed up the conference, he said, close ranks, which meant that as South Africans, as the youth of this country, as the militant, also as the Umkhonto weSizwe, we must make sure that the government that we had at the particular time must see, and the world must see, that it's ungovernable and opportunities must be given to all of us fairly so. But someone who can be able to tell us more, or who can be able to discuss, is Dr. Chidocha Shenyere. He's a postdoctoral research fellow, Institute of Pan-African Thought and Conversation from the University of Johannesburg. I'd like us to give him a round of applause where he can be able to come and be able to share from what has been discussed or what has been presented today. And from my side, thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Growing up, I always espoused and aspired to be in a profession where before you start addressing delegates, you say all protocol observed. So I am glad today I have had that opportunity to just say all protocol observed so that I do not disturb the setting that has already been given us. Minister, your lecture became very short. I was still enjoying learning and hearing so much wisdom that you were sharing, such that when you ended it, I thought, okay, so this is my cue to go and be your interlocutor. And I feel very small to be able to do that. However, I want to thank firstly the organizers of this event for picking me up to come and be the minister's interlocutor. I was wondering, why exactly me? And I thought, I'm really not one of those luminaries or eminent scholars. Will I really be able to interlocute the minister? However, when she shared a bit about herself in terms of her university days, I felt at home because I could realize that we have something in common here in terms of epistemic disobedience. So I'm glad I've already said all protocol observed because I am not a diplomat. I am just a scholar, a decolonial scholar at that matter. So I'm about to ruffle some feathers. Minister, you are quite right in terms of setting the scene and in terms of trying to go back to the African archive. In other words, the minister has called us to go back to the African archive. And how so? Minister, you started off by reminding us of the Timbuktu University. You started off reminding us about the Timbuktu University. And I am glad you mentioned that, but I'm also aware that you had to start somewhere. We could further explore other intellectual heritages from the Kemet civilization, from Egypt. This is where all civilization comes from. We could go into that, but the minister has already done so well in mentioning some eminent African scholars. So we do have eminent African scholars. However, as she posed, why is it that we do not have these scholars as part of our curriculum today? So this will be my entry point. Now we are celebrating today a luminary, or luminaries rather. I should speak particularly about O.R. Tambo and Lady Adelaide Tambo. They are luminaries of the struggle. So I want to pay tribute to them, and I want to start off the discussion with painting some picture about the struggle. So the struggle was for democracy, the struggle was for human rights, the struggle was for self-determination. And we may want to ask ourselves, why did we even have to go through that struggle? So it already points us to colonialism. It points us to the apartheid system, particularly here in Africa, in South Africa. So when we speak about colonialism, I know it has ended. Physically, it has ended. We are not justified to be crying about colonialism. However, colonialism has been survived by something else, something more sinister than the physical colonialism, and that's coloniality. Coloniality works in this way. These are the templates of thought, templates of being, and templates of society as we know it today. So the issue that we should really be discussing is modernity. This is where the issue is. Because if we look back into the history of South Africa, particularly when the apartheid system was formally inaugurated by one of the chief protagonists of the apartheid regime, Hendrik Verwoerd, who was a scholar, a psychologist from the University of Stellenbosch, he argued that apartheid was supposed to be a system of good neighborliness. However, we know that that system was manipulated to favor other races other than the African races or non-white races. Now, I'm just paraphrasing here. He is known to have argued, when it came to education, that native Africans were not to study mathematics, the sciences, because these did not prepare them for the life of servitude that they were designed for. So we can already see where the problem is. And this is where coloniality of education begins, or coloniality of knowledge. And the minister has spoken so well about it. We have had so many scholars, I should admit, not many of them did I know, but I have heard, so I will do my research as I am a researcher. But what we are seated with is coloniality of knowledge. The kind of knowledge that we have and the kind of knowledge that the academy is producing, and I am guilty of that because I am part of it. We are vanguards of coloniality because we are not disrupting well enough in terms of those that have been established, the standards that have been established by the Euro-North American-centric civilization. And I'm being polite here to call them a civilization. It will really be just the Euro-North American society. That's a debate for another day. But to go back to what the minister called us to do, there is need for industry to align with education. Let me just share a few statistics. So the current statistics, depending on who you listen to, have pegged the youth unemployment in this country between 40 and 60%, right? 40 and 60% youth unemployment. And you wonder, is it that these youths are not skilled at all? You wonder if they are not educated? And I beg to differ, that's not the case. It speaks to the very issue of the control of what education and epistemology has become. I have argued elsewhere, and I will repeat it here, to say the youth of today, the reason why they are not employed is not necessarily that they are not skilled, but it is the wrong skills that they have. Therefore, it makes the youth of today unemployable. I know this is rather controversial, but we can always discuss this, and I will welcome to be interlocuted as well in terms of my claims. Now, the government, I know it has done its part. It continues to do its part in terms of funding, because many a times students who deserve and students who may not necessarily have the best grades are usually denied the opportunity to continue with their studies because they are not qualified to get bursaries. So I'm just pointing this out to the minister. I know she knows, but I'm saying it to her because of her proximity to number one. If she may pass on the message on behalf of South African students who may not necessarily have the brightest grades, but who may even, if we want to call them mediocre, because it's in that mediocre that many people would benefit, and it is in that mediocre class where the majority of our students are. Because, of course, we are aware of the history that has led us to be where we are in terms of performance. So you would find in South Africa, I know you know, but I'll repeat it. In terms of education, the primary education and the secondary or the higher education, high schools, most students do not do so well. Universities are a class on their own. I liked what the Vice Chancellor was saying to us, telling us about the ratings of the universities. However, there is also something very problematic with that rating system, because the rating system only endorses the archive from the Euro-North American Society. We do not prioritize our own archive. So I reiterate the call by the minister for us to revisit the archive, the African archive, because it is in the African archive that we will get knowledge that is geared and suited for our own ecology. Because knowledge is contextual, knowledge is cultural, knowledge has to be particular in a particular geographic setting. So knowledge is geographical. We should disabuse ourselves of the notion of a universalistic knowledge, because it doesn't exist. And this is part of the problem that we have, where students are taught to imbibe knowledge from the archive of the Euro-North American-centric society at the expense of obliterating our own archive here. In closing, there is need for collaboration, and I agree and concur with the Minister. There is need for collaboration in terms of knowledge production. Now, knowledge production is where we lack, because our archives, our libraries in the universities, in the academy, they are laden with Euro-North American-centric scholars, not our own scholars. Whereas we know we have our own scholars. And so my call is, let's revisit the academy, let's revisit the archive, and we go back to our African archive because it is original. For your attention, I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nyere. All protocol observed, like it was said earlier on. My name is Xolile Gaba. I am the third program director. So I just wish to ask you all to please give Dr. Nyere another round of applause. Thank you very much. And Dr. Nyere is saying to us that we need to revisit our African archives. Perhaps we need to think in the lines of libraries, that we as Africans must, as the Minister has also said, ensure that our intellectuals that she mentioned in the list, the long list that she went through, is celebrated, throughout the year, so that we are familiar with them in schools and in universities. Without wasting any time, I'd like to take this opportunity again to get our ambassador, who is going to do the remarks from the Oliver and Adelaide Tambo Foundation. Her name is Ambassador Nomathemba, and she is a trustee of the Oliver and Adelaide Tambo Foundation, who received her BA in History and English at Roehampton Institute in London, followed by a postgraduate law at University of Witwatersrand in 2002. She completed a diplomatic training in 2007. She is currently the director of both Women in Capital Growth, which is a black empowerment company, and WebNet Solutions. She is also the CEO of Evening Star Manufacturing. Since 2008, she was involved in diplomatic work, and from then and in 2012, she was the South African Consul General in Hong Kong. She is currently the ambassador of the Republic of South Africa to Italy, and the co-founder of the South African Women's Chamber of Commerce, as well as a member of the International Women's Forum. Can we please give Ambassador Nomathemba Tambo a round of applause? Welcome, Ambassador.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. And for me, this is apart from being an honor for my family that we've been invited, it's a personal honor to be here, to be in the room with such luminaries. Minister, thank you so much. Vice Chancellor, she's gone to the graduation. I mean, how exciting is that? That on the same day that we're having this event, young people are graduating. They've completed a course of education here at UNISA, the largest open distance learning institution in the whole continent of Africa. And it's based in South Africa. It's been doing the most amazing work for many years. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I hope I can say, as well, the Minister got away with it, so I think I'm going to follow her lead, all protocol observed. My job here is to make remarks. I'll be very, very honest with you. I didn't know I was supposed to be making remarks. I thought I'd got off lightly. I thought I was just going to come, drink, meet some people, have a bite to eat and leave. So I have unfortunately been scribbling away madly whilst people have been talking, trying to pick up on some of the things that have been said. And I have to say that Regional Director Nodere, what you said is that you said that Tambo's life used education as a way to fight injustices against African people. And I want to say something to that point, because the 1976 youth uprisings in this country, not just in Soweto, as many people overseas think, they don't understand it was happening in many places as well around the country, but that many of those kids, they left the country, and many of them landed up in the United Kingdom, many of them landed up in Zambia, and they all came, they had one message, more or less, universally. We want to fight. We want to take up arms. We want to hit back at the apartheid government. And my father, being an educationalist and being a very, as I think it was said before, strategic thinker, he said to them, I also want you to fight, but I have a different path for you to take. Let us take education and make it a weapon of war. I want you to go to universities. I want you to become educated so that when we take our country back, we'll be able to show the apartheid government that we know more than they do, and we will run our country the way that we want it to be run, educated, internationalized, but still remembering the goal for which you left your country was to return better. So to your point, it was something that was very much in his mind and something that he was very, very much aware of. He was extremely aware of the importance of education. It was a passion that he learned very young in his life when he heard for the first time people speaking English. And he didn't know what that was. And he asked, and he was told, of course, it was English. So he went to his father and he said, I want to learn that English. So his father, who was also a very progressive man, started looking around, and he found a school for him to go to. But it was far away, and my father would have to walk forever, often staying overnight somewhere to get to this school. So eventually, of course, he started playing truant. That led to his father saying, no, well, I'm going to give you a horse. So he gave him a horse, and unfortunately, it wasn't just to get to school. My father developed a love of racing, and he became a jockey. The horse's name, by the way, was Chance, and I tell you what, he took a few chances on him as well. So many of the things that became important parts of his life, he learned as a child. And as I say, this passion for education. And because he had it in his nature, anyway, that he was a perfectionist, he couldn't do things by half. So it wasn't good enough to know something. He had to know it best. He had to be the best. And so he strove at school until he became one of the top 4 students in his entire school. And for him, what he learned through that experience was that it came with social respect, admiration, and attention. So it drove him even further. And I think we can all agree, those people here who were lucky enough to be, as Dr. Nyere said, some of the most brilliant students, they, of course, also thrive on the fact that people admire them, they look up to them, they have superior brains, and all that kind of propaganda, I call it. But anyway, he was very aware of the fact that there weren't always students who could perform as well as others. It was something that he made a point of telling us, don't ever judge anybody on their intellectual capabilities only, because if they don't have humanity, compassion, patience, then it doesn't help to be brilliant, because nobody will like you. And it's something that I took to heart. I have to tell you, I was not a brilliant student. But what we did in honor of him was we decided that we were going to have a competition, which we started in the United Kingdom. It was called the Oliver Tambo Science Awards. And what it was not for the most brilliant kids in science and mathematics, no. It was for the ones who tried the hardest, so that their efforts could be recognized. And the fact that they didn't get the trophy didn't mean that they weren't admired, they weren't respected for their persistence, their determination, and their ability to keep striving for excellence. And I think it's something that we could do here, bearing in mind what you said, Doctor, that we don't always have to focus on the most brilliant. There's a whole stream of kids behind who wish they could be, and who try so hard to be. And I think that part of our educational system could very well benefit from recognizing them as well. Minister, you spoke about the importance of education, and when you were talking about this whole theme of reclaiming Africa's intellectual capacity, my question came into my mind, well, at what point do we start to reclaim it? And as you said, we can start at this level, we can start at higher than this level, but we can also start at the very beginning, which is the babies. And the power of ECD cannot ever be overestimated. It is critical for our children to have strong foundations in order to get to places like this. And my mother, who was a nurse, her concern, and I have to raise it here because she would, whilst we're teaching the children to become better and brighter and more focused, we have to remember what she would call, we have to feed the brain. And so we have to pay attention to nutrition, because you can't expect a brilliant mind to grow on no petrol. So food for her was absolutely critical. And she would always say to us, what have you eaten today? What have you eaten today? And she was serious about it. She said, no, that's never going to grow your brain. Your brain cannot function if it's not being properly fed. And I think, again, it's something that we could address maybe with a little bit more urgency in South Africa, across the continent. And then where we're looking at peaceful countries like our own, what about those countries where there is conflict? And we know, because we've seen the studies of kids who grow up in countries of conflict where they don't eat, where the brains and the bodies are not being fed, and they're stunted. And at a certain age, you will not be able to be anything else but stunted. So again, just in terms of the discussion that is being had and the very valuable information that we've received, I think that that is something that might deserve some consideration. In terms of taking education further, I should inform you that we do have the Oliver Tambo Chair of Research. It's a chair that is a Pan-African chair. It's currently based in Burkina Faso, Zambia, where else? Mozambique, Ghana, Uganda. I think that's about it. 7 countries. I can't remember the others. But I think that's probably about it. Have I said Tanzania? I think so. And what the aim of it is to educate, basically, from a scientific perspective. The researchers go into the infrastructure of science and of learning and of development of their specific discipline in order to be able to teach it to younger academics, graduates, postgraduates, so that they can also become excellent researchers across the country, across the continent, ultimately the world, but looking for collaboration. And talking about collaboration in education, the other thing that comes to mind is that as an ambassador, I was very often very upset and disappointed by the number of our intellectuals from South Africa who had been invited to Italy. Italy wasn't so bad. To Hong Kong, Hong Kong wasn't so bad. But I have to say it out loud, to the United Kingdom, where so many of them were invited to sister universities or institutions to give lectures for periods of time as exchanges, and yet their visas were always denied. It was like getting through the eye of a needle to get our academics into the United Kingdom, and it's still a problem. And I would ask that government takes a position on this and helps those people, because we accept everybody here. It doesn't seem to me right that we are refused entry into other countries so that we can share our expertise, our brilliance. And Minister, as you were saying, there are so many brilliant minds in Africa that not even Africans know about. So what about the rest of the world? So it just feeds into that perception that we can't, that we don't have capacity. We are brilliant people. But if we are the only ones who know of it, how does it help us? Look at what happened in COVID. Look at what we did, South Africa did during COVID. And look at how difficult it was for the rest of the world to acknowledge our scientific genius at the time when the world needed it most. So I would just appeal to maybe not so much a tit-for-tat approach, but I do think maybe it's something that we could have a conversation about as well. Talking about issues of collaboration and issues of, I guess, the whole notion of reclaiming our intellectual capacity, it is also a fight, because we are saying to our intellectuals, we are expecting that you will collaborate and work together, despite the fact that we're all coming from different places, with different cultures and different priorities. And it takes me back to how my father dealt with sometimes questions that were difficult, or information that was not necessarily what people would want to receive. And again, he used an alternative way. Obvious maybe now, but at the time it wasn't. And he used music and culture. So he created a group called Amandla, and it was our cultural weapon, if I can say, for the ANC. And through song, they managed to travel the world and tell people about the struggle of South Africans against apartheid. Very, very successful group. And we still actually have some members who are alive and who are working in the military and in other areas of government in South Africa. So for those people who may be interested in finding out about Amandla, to me what it represents, apart from the fact they were brilliant musicians, Jonas Gwangwa, for example, was associated with Amandla. So it was at that level. It's just interesting to listen to some of the songs, because the messages then are still relevant today. I think also that what I would like to say about my father that maybe some of you may not know is that he was an extremely religious person. So very often when he would come, and he would come to the United Kingdom only about twice a year, but we would go driving, because we were all in boarding school, so we would go off driving around the countryside. And we had all the latest pop songs, along with our friends, of course, that we would want to sing and share with our parents, what we'd picked up at school. No, we had none of that. We sat for hours driving around Sussex, singing hymns. And we were the most uncool kids at school, because we didn't know pop songs, we knew hymns. And to this day, when I get into the car, sometimes I start singing and I just have to check myself. No, they're not here anymore. You don't have to do that anymore. But I think the reason I'm raising this is because it's a question of commitment and belief. Whatever your religious beliefs or whatever beliefs you have that one would hold close to one's heart, those are the things that we need to share with our youth. And we need, as my father did, as my mother did, to encourage them, to inspire them, not to be like us, but to be more of themselves than possibly they are at the moment. And then I think I would say in closing, just two things, and I'm going to have to read them because I was at the grave this morning. Today, of course, as you know, it's my father's birthday, so every 27th there is a wreath-laying ceremony in Wattville, in Benoni, and we all go there. Well, the few of us that are left go there, I mean, out of the family, because my sister's no longer able to attend those kind of functions. So it's always Dali and myself, normally the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren, but they're away this year in Cape Town. So I just want to read you some things from my father's grave that I thought you might find interesting. This is my mother talking now. And my mother, I think she must have been in her, 60s. And she decided she was going to go back to university. She went to Exeter University, and she did a master's in gerontology. So education was never far from her mind. And this is what is on her grave. Our fight is not quite done. Let us fight for the right to be literate, questioning, educated. Only then will we truly be able to claim that we have won our liberty. Education, 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 all the way. That's what's on her grave. And then on my father's grave, which speaks to the notion of continental collaboration in reclaiming our intellectual capacities, in reclaiming our sense of Pan-Africanism, I think. He says, it is our responsibility to break down barriers of division and create, in this case South Africa, but actually on the continent, and I'll say continent, a continent where there will be neither blacks nor whites. It goes on to say just South Africans, but I will say just Africans, free and united in our diversity. So I think that the topic of today's gathering here is so relevant to what he said so many, many years ago. And again, I thank you for the opportunity to address you, and please remember the words of my parents so that you can also pass them on to younger generations. Thank you so very much.
Wow, let's give the ambassador a round of applause. It is not often that we have an opportunity like this. So at UNISA, we are truly, truly, absolutely feeling grateful and blessed, Ambassador, that you took the time to come here, and also for the generosity of spirit from the Tambo family, because today is the actual birthday, you can imagine the family would have preferred to spend the time alone together to remember their father. So we really appreciated, UNISA, that you were so generous to make the time to come here. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the next section of the program. I don't know how much energy you have. Today is Friday, and I know normally people would rather be home and, I'll be with friends and partaking with beverages, etc. But we will do a 20-minute Q&A. Minister, thank you so much for your speech. May I request you, please, to join us here? And Chido, may I request you to join us here? We'll do just 20 minutes of Q&A. Minister, you gave us a lot of educational information. This room is supposed to be filled with masters and doctoral students. I don't know how many of them knew the information that the minister was sharing, Minister Nchaveni, earlier on when she spoke. So let's see with a quick show of hands. And I have seen that Ambassador Welile is in the room. I saw him somewhere. You know, the age of technology. I saw his photos. Thank you so much, Ambassador. We really thank you and appreciate you being here today. We know the support you've extended to us, to the Thabo Mbeki Foundation and UNISA and our joint projects, and all the work that you do on the African continent. We are really grateful that you are with us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, 20 minutes. Let me see with a show of hands who is interested to ask questions. Ambassador Tambo is here. It is my first time to see her as well. There are lots of stuff I want to ask her about what they spoke about at the breakfast table, for example. I don't know what you want to ask her. Okay, show of hands. Any one of our 3 participants? I see a hand right there. We have a roving mic. Team UNISA, may I see you quick in action getting the mic? I see another hand here. Let me see if there's a third hand, and perhaps that's all we will be able to take. I saw a hand there. I see a hand here. May we pass on the mic in that direction immediately? And please identify yourself, what do you do, and the question to whom you'd like an answer.
Hello.
Hello.
Good Friday to everybody. Hi. Oh, thank you very much to the presenter. Hi, everybody. The room of peace. Hi, the room of peace.
I think the way you're handling the mic may make it difficult for us to hear you. I can't hear you myself.
Hola. Sorry, I will try to MTV base. Yeah. Okay, sure. Hi to everybody. It's David Ngobuka. I think we're currently doing a bit of stats and bit of intellectualism and mobilizationism. Yeah, and other stuff other than the other. Okay, hi everybody. Thank you very much for informed conversation.
Are you able to put the mic away a little bit? Maybe we'll hear you more.
Yeah, I think it's better now without an echo. Oh, yeah.
Your question is to who, sir?
I think, it's a general question for social cohesion to everybody. I didn't want to pick the sides. I just wanted to be neutral. Please. Okay. Yeah, please.
So it's a question to everybody and to be neutral. Let's hear your question, sir.
Yeah, so because because we wanted to do a bit of I remember the song was they say, Nelson Man, Oliver Tambo, Teta Noboda, Kululu Mandela, Azobusa. Okay, the negotiator. So yeah, I think that time he was facing, Pharaoh. I think, the negotiator had to face Pharaoh. So I would like to also understand now, which side could the great father could have been? Which side could great-grandfather could have been today with these calamities and conundrums we are facing?
Okay.
Like, for instance, with the government had let their sleeping dogs lie. Because of the youth league has been frozen for quite some time, it's now it is going to wake up. So from the question of from the table of eager youth league woke activism, we would like to know, great-grandfather, which side could have chosen between these calamities and perplexities of today.
Thank you
very
so much. Thank you so much. I think this minister I think this is your question as you process it. He would like to know if the great-grandfather was still alive today, and that's Mr. Oliver Tambo, what would be his position when he looks at the state of our country currently and the politics that we're experiencing in South Africa currently? I think in essence, that's what he's asking. The second hand was here. Yes, ma'am. Do you have a mic?
My name is Julia Mtweni. I am the Deputy President of SASCO, which is the student organization. So my questions actually are just arrived from the input from all the speakers. So my first one, of course, will be to perhaps in my culture we'll say Mrs. Pat in a way, which would be the daughter of our president or our Tambo, which is that when you read on the former president, one of the greatest trends that we come across was his humanity, how he loved people. I think I was in one lecture by FES where we were told on how the home in London became a home for other comrades and other people. So I just wanted to perhaps get a grasp from you that how do we get leaders now in our structures who would be leaders that will build other leaders instead of building followers? Because I think that is the biggest trend that we're missing today in our leaders. We do not have leaders who groom other leaders. We have other leaders who are followers and praisers. So I think, how do you think in your perspective, can we actually grow that in the current crop of leaders that we have? Now, to the minister, of course, I have this best tendency that I always become with a bit of anarchy when I see my own leaders. But today, because she's like a mother figure to me, I will come down a bit because I need a mother when I leave this room. So I don't know how to refer to you now, to the minister. So there has been a bit of a pattern on an attack on black academia, in particular black women. Now, it can be an essence of patriarchy, but it can also be a sense that there is an attempt of the diminishing of intellectuality being removed, that the face of intellect, knowledge, should not be black. We see that with young lecturers who are per se kept to be told what you can teach and what you cannot teach. Now, we have seen that in the Free State, when a young lecturer was told that his lecture was emphasizing a bit of conflict because he was teaching on colonialism. Now, my question is now, how do we then find a solution? Because, of course, you are the minister, of course. How do we find a solution on decolonizing our education system? Because as a black female, when I'm studying a book, the authors, all of the majority are white. When I go to the workplace, I start speaking white. I don't speak about me, my identity, my color, my perspective. How do we get more books written by black scholars, by black women? Because the Renaissance is a change. So how do we inflict Renaissance into current dysphoria of course, black intellectuality? I think I'll keep it there for
Thank
now.
you so much appreciated. You know, some of us were groomed in the then SANSCO, as it was then called. During my days, when I was a university student, it was then called the South African National Student Congress, before it became SASCO. So I understand the need to be militant and all of that. I went through the same, grooming of becoming a leader through the same process. So, but I'm glad that you are asking the questions that you are asking. Can we be sure that there are only 2 questions? Because we're not going to take any further. Now they're flying up. Okay, we'll go here, and there, and that's it. Going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Daniel Waliamera is my name. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the College of Law, UNISA. My question, I don't know whether it's a question or comment, is to Dr. Nere. He talks about the aspect of decolonizing education. If you look at what students all over the African continent study, first, they are studying information or getting skills that are irrelevant and not applicable to the environment in which they are going to obtain jobs. And it's continuing all over the African continent. It's continuing. I have been a lecturer in other universities, and in my subjects, whenever students quote or cite an African scholar or their work, I give more marks deliberately. The reason is because we must deliberately and strategically promote our scholars, black scholars, because our brothers and sisters from the global north have put gates wherever you want to enter any intellectual space as a black person, not just a woman, as a black man. There are gatekeepers there who are usually white men who do not want you to publish anything, who do not want you to publish your journal paper, who do not want you to publish your book because of your skin color. So it's the reason whenever I get any script to mark, I ensure that whichever student cites black authors passes my paper.
So you give them a free pass because they're quoting African scholars. Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
they are doing a very good job. So my question to Dr. Nere there,
Yes.
do you think as African scholars, as the university, we are doing enough to decolonize this curriculum to enable it be fit for purpose when this African black student gets out to society? Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much for the question. I see that one, Menzaluba, and then Advocate Gumbi. May the mic reach her. Tim Unisa, please assist.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
So good to meet the Minister again. Minister, thank you for your presentation. Mine relates to the history that and the legacy that you left both at UNISA and within the other spaces. Allow me to start with artificial intelligence. I happen to be an IP and cyber lawyer, so I want to talk about how do you see our NQF, FET, HET articulating. The reason I'm using AI, it's because when we started writing the policies and the acts which we wrote, we were looking at articulation, at one system of education, at further education being one option to getting to credits. Now, you were talking about a helper to the lab. Because of RPL, he was able to acquire, which then means the acquired competence assisted. Hence then, I want to dock militarily on FET, on vocational education. Minister, can you assist us on this day in unpacking why, with all the efforts that we put in writing the Skills Development Act, the Skills Levies Act, the FET Act, and regulating the private institutions, which you know, but still the traction at vocational level is still not we anticipated when we wrote the white papers. And the articulation between FET and higher education is the reason why we have the so-called educated unemployment. What are we doing about that? Let me go to AI. AI is not a new concept. The challenge we have now is that AI is harvesting information from what the colleague is saying from a literature that is from another paradigm. And as such, the results might not fit the decolonization agenda. If we don't deal with this reality, that AI is at a technical college. I happen to be one of the privileged people to actually recalculate the curriculum to make sure that technical vocational in South Africa is aligned to market demands. You go to the mines, you go anyway. The question then becomes, with everything that we have done, and you have this AI that is coming now, that is making it difficult for us to be able to utilize it without higher level analysis. How and when do you think our policies, our legislation, our acts, our funding will make us realize what we wanted? Thank you.
Thank you so much, my colleague from College of Law. Advocate Gumbi, also in 2023, got appointed as the advisor to the United Nations Secretary General. I forget in what, Ambassador, please forgive me. I do know that you are high up there, moving in those spaces and doing all this big work in the United Nations.
No.
Thank you.
That's neither here nor there. I think, my question has partly been asked, but I just want to hone in on that. The theme of education ran through all the presentations. And so I'm asking myself, Minister, whether we are up to the task, because while we have to re-educate, which is the decolonization, we need to do that, because we need to understand who we are and where we come from, the way you've put it, Minister. But we, at the same time, need to prepare ourselves for a new world that is emerging. So I'm not talking about education for purposes of finding jobs or this or this. I'm talking about education for purposes of repositioning Africa in a developing global system. So I'm really asking from the intellectuals, Ndate from UJ, Tembi, when you look at it, and Minister, do you think that we understand that task, and are we doing that? To say, while we introduce decolonial education, which is necessary, but at the same time we have a challenge because the world has changed, and we have to prepare ourselves to be able to play a role in that world. Are we responding to that, Minister? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Those are the questions that we'll take this afternoon. Ambassador, may I start with you? Thank you so much for sharing the information that you shared about the research chair that's been established focused on several African countries. We are keen at UNISA to be connected to that information base and obviously play our part as far as thought leadership is concerned and to be part of that. The question that I think was specifically for you was the one around mentorship by that young man there. To what extent are we grooming new leaders? That, or what do you think, he called him great-grandfather, Oliver Tambo, his view on mentoring new leaders and upcoming leaders? What do you understand to have been his view on mentoring and ensuring that we have new leaders that can take over the mantle and do the work that is required? Technical team?
It's working, yes?
Okay, yeah, it is. See, the minister was in communications. She knows these things. This is her specialization. This is what she does.
Thank you for your question. Let me start by saying that the way that my father mentored was something that he learnt from his leadership, his elders, particularly Chief Albert Lutuli. And the way in which it was done in those days, and continued to be done under his leadership in the ANC, was that the elders would look at the young up-and-coming, or not even so much up-and-coming, very often he would, you know, because people were young, so it was stressful, and so people would always be looking for opportunities to get away sometimes and have fun. His approach was very much to set tasks, and I think that's what the ANC leadership generally did. They would give young people jobs to do and then watch them do the job. How did they begin? How did they finish? How did they tackle problems in the middle? And then they would go and they would discuss these young people. Yes, this one did well. This one needs a bit of help here. Maybe we should move this one there. He might succeed better. That might fit his personality better. So it wasn't a question of just random choices when it came to mentorship. Mentorship was across the board, but it was very much with a view to extrapolating the very best that people had across the board, not just for themselves, but for their colleagues as well. So if you know I'm good at something, and I'm your colleague, and we're both working together, knowing that we're being watched by the leadership, maybe we can help each other. So it was very much also team building was built into the notion of mentorship. And so what would happen is that when there were positions to be filled, the younger people who were going to fill those positions would never choose themselves. They would be selected because they had been studied, they had been understood, and they were known. Their good characteristics, their weaknesses, everything was known about them. And so objectively, they could be placed in positions where they would be most effective in pushing across the message of what was happening in South Africa and the fight for self-determination. I can give you an example of former High Commissioner and poet and author, actually, Lindiwe Mabuza. She was young, and she was working in Zambia, and my father came to her one day and says, we're going to start an ANC mission in America, in New York, and you've been chosen to go there. And Aunt Lindiwe burst out crying. She said, I can't. I don't even know that place. I've never done anything like this before. You're going to send me there. I'm going to fail. It's cold. I'm going to be amongst people who I don't understand. I don't want to go. And he said, but you'll go. You'll be fine because we'll be with you. We're not sending you alone. We will be with you. And she went with great trepidation. Do you know what? She was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. From the south to the north, from the east to the west, she was admired, she was effective. She was also an educator, by the way. She lectured at some point at Stanford University. So what I'm saying is that when you're talking about mentorship, you know that hideous phrase that people always use? Well, it's hideous to me because I don't think it tells the whole truth. It takes a village to raise a child. Well, we don't have time for villages anymore to raise children because our structures have been so discombobulated. But what I'm saying is that mentorship is not a one-on-one thing. Mentorship should come from the community in which you are operating, and it should come to everybody from everybody.
Absolutely.
So I think if you're talking about what my father would do now to mentor someone like you, he would first need to understand what it was you were doing, why you were doing it, how far you were with it, who's surrounding you, who are your elders, who must he talk to about you? And then he will start plugging in. And he had a brilliant way of lifting people. So you may think, okay, I'm quite good at this. You may be, but you may be shocking at it. You'll never hear that coming from him. He'll convince you to put everything into it because you're good. And the more you hear that you're good, the better you think you are. It's human nature. Until eventually you do become good at that thing. Unfortunately, in our communities, historically, I'll tell you what happened to my son-in-law. He sat in a class with a white boy, and they were the two top students in his class. They stayed together for the entire year, competing against each other. The teacher would come with the test, the exam result. He'd give Skona. Hey, Jacques, my boy. Sure, you got a brain. You killed that paper. You killed it. Well done, everybody. You see, this is how you study. That would be the response that Jacques would get. This is not an uncommon response in our schools at that time. So children were told that their brilliance was no good because of the color of their skin. Because you were black, even though you did or surpassed your white colleagues, you would never get the same level of recognition because of your skin color. That becomes something that becomes deep inside of somebody. It affects all your choices. It affects the kind of triggers that you have. And if you're not surrounded by people who can mentor you and help you manage those disappointments, then, you know, life becomes extremely hard. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. And I can attest to part of what you're saying, Ambassador. And at UNISA, we are absolutely privileged that as part of the Thabo Mbeki Presidential Library that is currently under development. As I've said, we have the prototype in this very building on the first floor, but of course the bigger building we're still fundraising to ensure that it is built. The real treasure trove of what would be kept and managed, properly digitized and made available for research purposes would be what I call the Tambo collection. President Thabo Mbeki was the private secretary of Mr. Oliver Tambo for many, many, many years. We are very privileged that he was really meticulous in maintaining records. So we have a lot of original documents that come from that period when Mr. Tambo was president of the ANC in exile. Come to the point about mentorship. It took Mr. Tambo's mentorship of what then became the future president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, because he started at that period when he was his private secretary, that he clearly mentored him over the years and groomed him into the future to later become the president of South Africa. And indeed the ANC, of course, sent many, many people in exile to, gave them bursaries to study abroad. I will not repeat them. Apart from that, and also including the question that was asked by Advocate Gumbi, how do we ensure, I don't know if that is your question or the minister's question, how do we ensure that university meet the skills that are required for industry? As opposed to the kind of skills that universities, with the skills with the lack of skills, where we have unemployed graduates, and at the same time, the market is crying for the kind of skills that are required there. My Chido on that point, and also on decolonizing, ensuring that question there, that the African scholars are getting the recognition that they deserve, that their research work is being published fairly as it should be, and we ensure that in the education system, even students are exposed to a diversity of knowledges, and they're exposed not only to Western patterns of thought and also to African authors. And so may you tackle that question, please. Technical team.
Thank you so much for the two questions. So the first, I won't mention which one, but you will be glad to know that it is in And at that university, modules that I taught English for academic purposes. And what I used to do, like what you did say, I would award marks particularly for students who cited African scholars. But remember, our fight is not really at department level. It is a system. And the system tends to reticulate itself and reconnects me to the idea of having an African university, having a university in Africa. What we sit with in most of these institutions are universities in Africa, not African universities. Need for us to decolonize. How we do that, personally what I used to do, I would change the approved curriculums and adopt issues that spoke to the local place and the mistandlov, and see themselves in the content. So it is really difficult to answer, are we doing enough? Yes, we are doing enough. Maybe again, I will share what I did with my PhD. So with my PhD, it was awarded. It was a deliberate attempt to change the narrative, to say we have a lot of African scholars who are equally good and who are measurable to international standards. And I did that deliberately. And I'm happy to say in the academy that I know of, some have been my great mentors, they are doing enough. However, the system operates independently of people. There are some people within the system that are gatekeepers, and they will undo the little progress that we do. The second question from the advocate, I think there is something that we need to think about. I will answer your question because it revolves around, are we doing enough to prepare for global challenges? And my question will be, what is global? My argument, what I'm intoning there is the global is actually the local. In other words, that have been spread, unfortunately, through the violence of colonialism and the... So in answering your question, simply put, yes, we are doing enough in terms of relating our social economic circumstances into the academy. However, the academy being what it is, it has taken a turn. The academy has not always been Eurocentric. It has not always been. If we may argue, it actually came from Africa. However, it took a turn as Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that response. Minister, tackle as...
I thought Tambo was going to take on which side will the grandfather be today, but given that it's left, I'll respond. The grandfather will be on the very side that has always remained. And that's important because there's a narrative going on that says the ANC has veered away from its path, and as a result, the former leaders of the ANC have seek to abandon the ANC. But the founding fathers and the leaders of the ANC have never break through. When the O.R. Tambos and Mandelas took over, it was because they wanted a different change. Yes, the ANC has had a lot of veering out and coming back and recorrecting. But the Tambo, you'll recall, those of you who have read the history of the ANC, there had to be Kabye 1 and Kabye 2. Two conferences in a go, anything, but because there were differences and disagreements within the ANC of the course of action that had to be done, there were letters written by leaders in the ANC and O.R. Tambo to go. And by the way, before we forget, he offered to step down as president of the ANC and can't step down, and we are going to reconvene to discuss how we correct this in a manner that is satisfactory to what the leadership who are. So there's no notion of O.R. Tambo leaving the ANC. There's a notion of an O.R. Tambo who would have continuously contributed to the rebuilding, renewal, and the, I'm lacking a better word, and the repositioning of the ANC, because an ANC, any organization would be a dead organization. The ANC would not have survived more than 100 years if it was static. It had to continuously change, and sometimes changes are chaotic, and in that chaos, there's order, and there's also going back to the path. So that's the clarity I'd want to provide, and Sistembi was agreeing with me on that one. On there was also a question around the attack on black excellence. And the changes, and also the redefining or decolonialization of Africa. Yes, we had the first wave of decolonialization, and the second wave has come through. We need a third wave of decolonialization. What Steve Biko, and I need to say this in tribute to the Black Wednesday, the Steve Biko say, we need to decolonialize our mindset. There's a notion that that which is African, that which is black, is not good. We tend to set what we deem as global standards without addressing. If you recall, when I was reading out or citing out the contribution of African intellectuals, the intellectuals who have done work on malaria, and even when we're going through the COVID-19, if you recall, the people who did, and I remember, what was that one which was deemed the South African virus, just because we sequenced it first. Imagine if they had sequenced that, or before, they could have done and solved the issues of Ebola, malaria, cholera, things that continue to plague the African soil. The issue of what is global is the ability to resolve the problems that confront you and your communities in the main. And then said that as to go back and decolonialize without positioning ourselves to the end. Advocates, Zalwa is correct to say, AI is not new, it's a blast from the past. You have read about Terminator, you have watched what's that, MacGyver car, you have the DB07 car. Those technologies, it's AI. It's just that we are harnessing it properly and we have given it a proper name, and article technologies, business analytics, data analytics, that is required to position us for the future. So as we decolonialize, we must also say, what are those skills? But those skills will remain irrelevant if they do not address our significant in a number of ways. Yes, we have articulated in white papers, in policies, and in acts. But the investment. A child going to a TVET college is equal to a child going to a high school. Actually, some high schools are much better in terms of just infrastructure, a college to a TVET college. So it should not be just an investment in that type of education. It must be an institution where you pride yourself as. We are sitting here, we have pride that we are at a university that is 150 years, one of the phenomenal universities. So one, we need to deal with the infrastructure. Secondly, we have again made education second class and second rate. Because we said those who go to TVET colleges are those who cannot reach universities. And we need to change that. That is not about those who cannot go to universities, it's about the skill sets that we want to do. Exactly. But how do you bridge that gap as institutions of higher learning? You've done training and partnerships with other universities. What of training and partnerships with the TVET colleges? But also, in terms of the pathing, the education pathing, how do you get, because a person who goes to a TVET college, they are unlikely to hold a PhD, because we have not said, when you go to a TVET college and come out with an NCV or and a diploma and the NQF level 4, how do we path you through to a University of Technology for a BTech? Or a higher diploma, BTech, and then a master's or an honors in technology, and whatever. Germany has the demasculination of the vocational learning so that they can become added as senior. And on the, I think I've dealt with, on the issues of black excellence, per se, speak out. Even when people are right, and there's a tendency amongst academics, especially black professionals, that as long as it's done by government, I cannot be seen to be fighting against government because I'll be a victim. I'm a life example of that. I was suspended at UNISA. Not UNISA, CETA, my apologies. I was suspended at CETA.
We didn't suspend you, Minister.
No, you didn't. You made me run because you wanted to give me, what do you call it? They didn't call it.
Associate Professor.
Yeah, you wanted to give me associate. I ran, I fled. But I was suspended at CETA. I haven't done nothing wrong just because a politician was very insecure and all sorts of things. And then I was suspended 2 years, no charge, nothing through the disciplinary hearing. They thought they were going to outlive me and not charge me until I retire. I resigned. I didn't resign. I went through DC, and the panel that they appointed says, she has not done anything wrong. What are you charging her for? And there was nothing. And that's why I say to people, when you are charged, you must voice out your side of the story. Government, yes, has power, has money, has all those things, but you must always put you can take them to court, challenge them, because it's not a government position. It's an individual. They fight to be together. But lastly, it's an issue around how do we then contribute meaningfully in terms of recognizing Black excellence or African. I'm studying something. I haven't seen it.
Let's give the panel a round of applause. I'm going to hand over to my next program director. No, okay, sorry. Yes, I forgot. He will let you know why you are there.
Okay, thank you very much. I think in this round, we are looking to, it's not on the program, because we wanted to surprise everybody. We are looking to hand over some gifts to our guest speaker and Ola's ambassador and Dr. Nyere. I'm going to call up our acting region. Oh, she's here already. To please hand over the gifts to our team. Yeah.
May I interrupt just for 2 seconds? Some know that I always say if there's no photo, it did not happen. Where is our camera person to capture this? I mean, the minister cannot live here and declare in the book in Parliament that she received a gift at UNISA and there's no photo of it. I mean, how could we do that? Camera person, please come through, and we'd love to capture that. Thank you.
Where is the camera?
It's gone. Who's going to do that? Thank you very much. The gift has been handed over, and we will ask our team to, you can go back to your seats. Thank you very much. And now we move over to the last part of the program, or second. We are going to ask in vote of thanks, we are going to call up Mr. Richard Chauke, Deputy Director for Student Administration Support at UNISA.
Program directors, to the honor and to the principal. And I'm glad somebody said all protocol observed, because when I arrived there, in big trouble. But thank you very much for your presence here today and for gracing this occasion. And I want to thank each and every one of you who's here today, that you have accepted our invitations and that you have joined us here, and that you have known of a Ugandan proverb that says, a leader's handbag is never completely empty. A true leader, too, and in life, is relentlessly interminable. It just keeps on giving. And that was what was invoked today about O.R. Tambo. He was that kind of from whom we can continue to learn, from whom we will continue to learn, from whom we will continue to engage one another every year, at least according to this series that we have, in October here at UNISA, because I believe we'll never get to a day when we'll say we've reached. For lifelong and memorable support, for true and for deepened wisdom, wise men always know to lean on the strong pillars that the women in their lives are. I had an oh yes there. I was going to say, thank you very much for that. We also want to thank the Adelaide and Oliver Tambo Foundation through the trustee, Mr. Ambassador Tambo. We appreciate your holding hands with us in this series. We know we can always trust in you to continue with us into the future. Thank you so much. And we want to thank you today for actually sharing with us some snippets from what was discussed, confine of your family, the wisdom that came to the children and how you engaged one another. At point, tend to forget that our leaders are people as well. And when you hear the wisdom that they share, even with much is left now, I think it's part of the hectic that they always have. We thank you for gracing us this afternoon and for sharing with us. As I was sitting there, I kept scratching things out. I almost was left with nothing except what I started writing when I was sitting there. Where we had forgotten, the minister reminded us of much that is African and African-led. And I think that was an important reminder. Where we did not know, she raised our curiosity. And I think she has sent some of us packing to go to our elders to find out what is it that we still do not know. For there is a lot that we can pick up from that. The principal, in a usual eloquence, introduced our guest speaker. You never disappoint. We thank you for your leadership, and especially for being one of the biggest mouthpieces for this university. I think you must have picked up what UNISA is becoming. And if we could all do 10%, Dr. Nyere, we thank you for the excellent discussant. Earlier on, I was speaking with him and I said to him, I don't envy you because you know what you're going to stand up and say until the keynote speaker has spoken. He can't prepare like most of us. He has to be on his toes. I really appreciate this. And thank you also for participating in the question and answer session together with Ambassador Tambo and the Minister. And for you, the audience, those of you who are here by meet, and those who have joined virtually, if you were not here, we would have heard our own echoes as we try to speak too much. I was going to quote something from Shakespeare about music, but then I thought the name of the character is Osrino, and if I'm not careful, half of the audience here will think I was quoting Oskido. So I decided to leave it alone. Progress directors, you've really done very well. And I think it shows that you prepared and you really went beyond 8 hours. Unfortunately, I will not be signing any overtime claims for this effort. And for those who suspect they didn't hear me thank them, it is not because I recognize you. It is because you are so special that when I leave the podium, I'm coming right to you to give you a big and be in good health until we see each other come October 2024. I thank you.
item for the day. We're going to ask that we please give an opportunity for the minister and her entourage or team that she's come with to please go and dish up, and all the reserved tables. Once they are done, then we will ask for the rest as the other reserved tables that I may not have mentioned to please go and dish up, and our ushers are around. They shall walk you through to the food court. I see they are coming. They're all wearing black, so they'll come and show you to the food court. No music. Yeah, some music.
Thanks. Thank you so much. The ushers